My name is Greg Thompson, and I'm an art advisor. What does an art advisor do? Art advisor is a lot like a real estate agent. We help navigate our clients through the often complex and murky world of the fine art market. Some of our clients include the Arkansas Museum for Fine Arts, Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, art, art museums throughout the region, Stevens Inc., and some of the top 100 collectors. Before I get started, I want to give thanks and acknowledge it to my mentor, Townsend Wolf. Every success story, no one stands alone. You're always given a foundation, and this man's leadership and his knowledge of art was deep and wide, and he taught me a lot. Thanks, Townsend. Since we're talking about art as an investment, I also wanted to give acknowledgement and thanks to Warren and Harriet Stevens and Stevens Inc. It's their vision, and their determination, and their generosity that definitely made the Arkansas Museum for Fine Arts the great institution it is today. Art is an investment, what it is and what it ain't. Art, think of it as an asset class, and we're going to be talking about secondary market art. Now, that's art that gets bought and sold more than one time, kind of like a house. Rule number one, art is not liquid. Remember that. Art is not liquid. Art is not liquid. It increases in values over time, but more often than not, think of it as a piece of real estate, as a fine piece of jewelry, as an antique. It's something that gets bought and sold, and it takes a knowledgeable gallerist, an art advisor, or a dealer to match the property, the work of art, with a willing and able buyer. Very important. Most importantly, art is an investment in the quality of your life. When you buy a great work of art, you want to fall in love with it. It wants to move your soul. There has to be a visceral connection to it. That's the most important thing. And the fact that it goes up in value is just a fringe benefit. This is actress CCH Pounder. I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting her down in New Orleans when I was there with the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. She's an avid collector of Southern regionalism, and the passion that this woman has for the art in her home that she shares not only with her partner, but also the community is astounding. If you have a good art advisor, just like a real estate agent or a stockbroker in your corner, art can be a good investment over time. Rule number three, if you hold it for the long term, it's just like a blue chip stock in Intel, Apple, the Fortune 500 companies. This is an index showing art as an investment over the course of about 15 years. And as you can see from this index, it keeps up with the S&P 500. Some success stories from regional artists here in Arkansas that I want to share with you. Arguably the most important artist from Arkansas and Tennessee is Carol Clore. This was the very first Carol Clore that we sold early in our career back in 1998 for $30,000. The client probably paid about 25 for it, but once again, the secondary market, the original owner probably paid 5,000 for it from Carol. This is a very similar painting in size and subject matter that we sold last year for $125,000. So I think that's a pretty good return on your investment for 27 years. I mean, it's just like if you had put $5,000 into Intel and then enjoyed it on your wall and it brought you great joy and pleasure, and then you decided you wanted to buy a condo and move out of your house and you sold it and made 10 times what you paid for it. Another successful regional artist is Theora Hamlet. She's the Carol Clore of Mississippi. We sell a lot of her work when we can get it. Very hard to find, and this is also a variable in the rarity of an object about the increase in value. This is a Hamlet that we sold early. We sold this back in 2010. It's the very first Hamlet we sold. The original owner probably paid $5,000 for it. We sold it for $18,000. And as I began to know the value of this artist, I came to the owner that bought this, guy named Nick, and I said, Nick, let me sell your Theodore Hamlet. I'll get you 4 times what you paid for it. He said, Greg, I'm not interested. We love it. It hangs in our kitchen. It brings us joy every day. And that's what investing in art is all about. Fringe benefit, this is this very similar painting, same size, same year, same subject matter roughly. We sold this last year for $65,000. Once again, a good ROI. Successful international artist. This is David Hockney, very important artist. He's got a major retrospective right now in Paris at the Louis Vuitton Foundation. And when you go to Paris, you need to go to the Louis Vuitton Foundation and check out this retrospective. We got this in for a major works on paper collector back in 2007 for $250,000. This is a drawing that Hockney did of the front porch of the Arlington Hotel. Sure, if we've all been to Hot Springs, we know this scene very well. When we had this in 2007, it was $250,000. And that seems like a lot of damn money for a crayon drawing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Right?
14 by 17, yeah.
I know it's teeny. Well, my client decided to pass on it. It didn't melt his butter. That's okay. You know, you want to buy what you love, and he didn't love it. Same drawing sold in 2022 for $1.5 million. It's a 500% increase in 15 years of the same work of art. Some other successful international artists, Henry Moore. Does everybody recognize this? Stands out in the front of our illustrious Arkansas Museum for Fine Arts. Townsend Wolfe bought this in 1978 for three gentlemen who had a partnership. They wanted a piece of public art to go in front of their new building, and it was the metro, it was kind of a walkable area. This is the most important piece of public art in the state of Arkansas. Well, I can't say that now. In Little Rock. Townsend paid $185,000 for this back in 1978. The bronze alone, just the material is worth $185,000. Let's fast forward to 2025. This is he did these in editions, and that was an edition of 6. This is a smaller piece. It's half the size. This sold at Christie's in 2019 for $1.4 million. But if you double that and you extrapolate the fact that this was 6 years ago, the one in front of the Arkansas Museum for Fine Art was worth between $4 and $5 million. How do you know when an artist will increase in value? That's a damn good question. This is Larry Gagosian, arguably the most important art dealer on the planet. CBS Sunday Morning called him the Caesar of the art world. He has 10 galleries across the planet with an annual revenue of $1 billion a year. Larry got his start also with an important mentor, Leo Castelli, one of the big modern art dealers in New York. Leo introduced him to Cy Newhouse, one of the wealthiest men on the planet then that could buy anything he wanted, and thus launching Larry's career. Larry ran into Jean-Michel Basquiat early in his career in 1982, and this is what I'm talking about. Larry said of Jean-Michel, when I first saw his work, my hair stood up on my hair. That's what you want, that visceral experience that goes beyond words. The Nasher Gallery, Mr. Nasher said, I knew it when I saw it, when I felt butterflies. He launched Jean-Michel Basquiat's career, had a one-man show for him in LA in his new gallery in 1983, sold out the entire show in one night. This painting sold for $30,000. It's now part of the Whitney Museum of American Art's collection. This is a very similar painting that sold in 2017, same size, actually smaller, same year, probably the same show, sold for $110 million. Jean-Michel Basquiat is a darling of the art world, but he is not the exception. I thought I'd throw this in there. When you go up to Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, I hope you do, it's a world-class museum. Sometimes this hangs on the wall. This was purchased by Miss Walton back in 2012. Once again, same size, same year, $26 million. People ask me all the time, Greg, who's the next Jean-Michel Basquiat? If I had an answer for that, I wouldn't be standing here today. I'd be down in, I don't know, the Caribbean or something, drinking fruity drinks and laying on a hammock. I do not have a crystal ball, and anybody who tells you they do are lying to you. But what I can give you is some rules of the road and give you a map. The most important thing is buy what you love. And here's some guidelines that if you want to buy smart, once again, just like the Arlington Hotel, you got to love it. Here's a couple of pointers. First of all, get a good art advisor. I would not put money in the stock market by myself. I would definitely get a financial planner. I would not go buy a $1.5 million home on my own. I would go get a real estate agent. I wouldn't try to diagnose my own medical things. I'd get a doctor. And if you're going to invest in art, if you're serious about it, you want to talk to someone like me or one of my esteemed colleagues around the world. Why? We have an expert and in-depth knowledge of the field. If you're a stockbroker and you're looking at stocks all day long, that's what I do all day long. I look at art. All I do. I perform due diligence on my client's behalf. Right now, we're looking for a Modigliani for a very important client down in Palm Beach. I've looked at 3 Modiglianis in the past 3 weeks, and unless they pass this criteria that I'm going to show you, we never even introduce it to our client. We advise on potential upsides and downsides, and we have access to very important works that aren't available to the general public just because of relationships. And I love what Townsend taught me early in my career. He said, Greg, relationships are everything. We also can negotiate on our client's behalf and get them the best value for their money. What's the very first thing I look at when I look at a work of art? The provenance. Who owned it? When they owned it? Its history. Here's a studded glove that was worn by the kind of glove that Michael Jackson wore in Thriller. $99 on eBay. Here's the glove that Michael Jackson actually wore in the 1983 Motown 25 performance when he first did the moonwalk. Sold for almost $500,000 in 2009. Pretty much the same object, different ownership. And so, as an art advisor, these are some of the things we look. Has the piece ever been in a museum? If so, what museum is it? If it's been exhibited in the Museum of Modern Art or the Whitney or the Guggenheim, that's a different animal than something that's been exhibited at the High Museum in Atlanta or a second-tier museum. There's nothing wrong with second-tier museums. We love them. We love them. And if a curator or a director at MoMA has picked something to go on the wall, that's a big stamp of approval. Do you have a question?
Explain to me what you mean by can perform due diligence on your behalf.
Excellent question. Excellent question. So let me give you a real life story. This happened last month. So one of our best clients called me up and he said, Greg, he said, my sister wants to buy a Georgia Rodrigue and she's thinking about buying it and I won't tell the auction house, at this auction house. And for the love of God, please talk some sense into her. So I said, well, let's look at the piece. So we looked at the piece, but most importantly, because I've been in business for 30 years, I know people down in New Orleans. So I called a friend of mine and said, hey, would you do me a favor and go look at this piece at this auction house? And he did. And he called me back. He goes, Greg, it has horrible condition issues. It's a train wreck. I said, great. Thanks for telling me. I called him back. We had a little conference call. I said, well, what do you want? She goes, well, I want a Blue Dog piece by Rodrigue. I said, great. We went out and found him something that was 5 times the size, better, had been in a museum exhibition, and was less money. Another thing is, are there literary references? Has the piece been in a book? The condition is huge. Per our story, we just illustrated with the Rodrigue. And is it priced fair to market? That's a big due diligence thing for us. The first thing we ask for is a fact sheet. This is what a fact sheet looks like. And it has all the attributes that we just discussed, the provenance, an exhibition, literary references, notes, and condition. This is a Picasso that we just sourced for a client of ours that's in play right now. Something else that you can also ascertain to establish provenance is looking at the back of a painting. Joanne Peirce, who Townsend introduced me to, was my fairy godmother in this business and taught me a lot, said, Greg, these labels on the back of the painting are worth their weight in gold. And they are. This is a John Marin that we just sourced for a client of ours, very important artist, has a lot of work in Amphis collection. But I asked to see the back. And this label right here is from the Downtown Gallery, Edith Halpert, one of the oldest female art dealers, one of the very first female art dealers in the United States, who represented Marin. This is everything. I mean, this gives me goosebumps when I saw this. So this increases the value of the work of art. Not only do we know it's authentic, but it hung in an exhibition at Ida Halpert's gallery. Most artists have what's known as a catalog raisonné. These are two of my favorite artists, Monet and Giorgio O'Keeffe. So another thing we look for is the work listed in the artist's catalog raisonné. A catalog raisonné in a perfect world lists every single painting the artist ever did. Its provenance, its exhibition history, its size, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are very important books. They're very expensive. Katrina knows we just bought a Baudelaire book today, but they're worth it. They're worth it. This is a Giorgio O'Keeffe that we sold a while back. And once again, it's in the catalog raisonné. Nobody on this planet can doubt its authenticity. And it has some pretty stellar exhibition history and provenance. What not to do when you're buying art. If you ever see your certificate of authenticity, run for the hills. Go the other way. The reason being is a certificate of authenticity is often generated by a gallery to authenticate a work that they're selling. So there's no due process, there's no, due diligence. There's this wonderful scene out of Tommy Boy. Have you ever seen that movie? So Tommy Boy is selling brake pads to a trucking company, and he says, buy our brake pads, and the guy says, no, I'm not going to do it because it doesn't have a guarantee on the box like your competitor. I want the guarantee. It makes me feel nice and warm and fuzzy. Tommy Boy goes, well, wait a minute. I could take a crap at a piece of box and put a guarantee on it, and you'd have a guaranteed piece of crap. Stay away from that. This is what you want to be looking for. This is a Henri Matisse original drawing that we sold a while back. They're a very prominent collector. Every artist is different, but Matisse and Picasso all have photo certificates for all their works. So this is a photo certificate from Wanda Gubriant, who's no longer with us. She was a leading expert in Matisse on the planet. So this drawing was, well, that was in Geneva is where we got it, but she had seen it. She had physically seen it and examined it, and she said, yes, this is a Matisse. So this piece of paper goes with the piece of art and is just as valuable as the art itself. Something else that you can get, not all artists have photo certs. Thomas Hart Benton is an artist that we specialize in, and this is a letter of opinion from one of the leading experts on the planet, Dr. Henry Adams, wonderful author and a friend, graciously writes letters for us from time to time on works by Thomas Hart Benton. Once again, sign of approval, stamped, out the door, on the wall. Condition, condition, condition. Just like a piece of real estate, a piece of jewelry, it has to be in good condition. This is a condition report written by David Bull on another Giorgio O'Keeffe that we sold a while back. It was an exquisite piece, large, from the 1940s. But once again, you never want a condition report from a gallery. You don't want to get an assessment of someone's house from the owner. Buyer beware. So David Bull gave us this condition report. The seller's representative went to go view it in a warehouse in New York. We sold it the next day. How to establish fair market. So this is a two-prong approach, and we do this all day long. For example, I will not pick up the phone and call you. Let's just say you wanted a Matisse. I would not pick up the phone and call you unless I had done all of this first. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm certainly not going to waste my time. So there are search engines out there that can show you how stuff trades publicly at auction. That's what we call comps, just like a house. So the Picasso that we were looking at earlier, these are some comps we pulled on that exact Picasso. Here's one that's very similar that sold for 3.8 million. Here's one that's similar because it's the same size, same year, 5.5. Here's one that sold for 5.3. So this is one variable in establishing a fair market. It's not the only variable. The second is what we do is we look at comparables that are in the market on retail. And we take those two numbers and we kind of mash them together. Why? Because auction records aren't always reliable. This auction record at the top, for example, let's see, that was Sotheby's London, 2022. Who knows what was going on in the world back then? You know, the real estate market could have been crap. It could have been a rainy day. Maybe the right two people aren't at the auction house duking it out. This painting could have sold for $5, $6 million. But when we cross-reference these two variables, we come up with what's known as fair market value. Where not to buy art? For the love of God and all things that are sacred, please do not buy art on a cruise ship or in Vegas. Early in my career, I would get phone calls from time to time. I've got a Salvador Dali I want to sell. What's the very first thing out of my mouth? Where'd you get it? What's the provenance? The very first thing out of my mouth. Oh, I bought it at Park West Gallery. I can't help you. Reason being, you don't go on a cruise to buy art. You go to a cruise to drink and go to ports of call and swim and sunbathe, okay? You are a captive, drunk audience. You will make bad decisions, and they know that. There have been several class auction lawsuits against Park West. They're in deep doo-doo. Same thing goes for Vegas. Don't go to Vegas to buy art. Go to New York, go to Chicago, go to Santa Fe, go to Palm Beach, go to Art Basel, Miami, come to the Arkansas Museum for Fine Arts. The shows are curated, just like the stamp of approval on that letter of authenticity, or it's been vetted. So the smart way to buy and invest in art, of course, is have a trusted art advisor in your corner. Good art buying etiquette. Okay, you found the piece of art you like, whether you're dealing with me, whether you're dealing with a gallery, whether you're doing one-on-one with the artist. Just like going to a fine restaurant, knowing which spoon and fork to use, got to know some good buying art etiquette. Can I take the art home? That's a damn good question. It's a fair one. Every gallery, every dealer is different. We say yes. Take it home, spend the weekend with it, see if you love it, see if it works with your interior, see if you love it the next morning. Should I ask for a discount? Well, there's pros and cons. Now, why people in our industry think you can get a discount on art? I mean, you wouldn't ask your surgeon to get, what's the best possible price on that heart operation I'm going to get. You wouldn't ask your attorney what their best rate is when you're in a lawsuit. So why people expect it on art, I don't know, but it's part of the landscape. Most dealers and galleries will extend a 10% discount if asked. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. I always ask. I'm a collector as well. Never, ever, 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 ever try to lowball them. One negotiation tactic is called a low anchor point. It works with some things, but you're gonna piss an art dealer off, and then you're gonna fall down the proverbial art buying ladder, and you'll be the last person they call, not the first person. And art is a one of a kind object. And I have clients that wait years for a piece of artwork. I mean, Theodore Hamlet is a perfect case. Katrina and I have a list a mile long. And when we get one, which is only probably 3 or 4 times a year, if even that, we've got a pecking order list. And guess who's always at the very top? The person that doesn't ask for the discount. And you can almost mercuriously go down that list. But guess what? It's gone after the second or third call. If you treat the dealer and the artist and the gallerist and the advisor respectively, you're reciprocated. In conclusion, art is a great investment in the quality of your life, and it's an asset that can grow financially over time. It's not liquid. So let's say you buy that Picasso and you paid, I don't know, $100,000 for it, and now it's going up to $500,000 and you want to sell it. It's not like a stock where you can pick up the phone and call your broker at Stevens and say, hey, let's sell it. You have to call someone like me or one of my colleagues around the world, and it's a dance. If it's a rarefied object, it's highly desirable. Yeah, it's out the door in a couple of days. If it's not, it might take a while. If you're thinking about investing in art, for the love of God, call an art advisor. Thank you so much.